All right, so today is February 21st, 2024. This is the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. Thank you all in the audience, the live audience here. We're here just to listen to a good friend of ours who's been a part of this community for a long time, our former sheriff, Jim MCDonnell. You guys, can you keep it down over there? Jay, thank you. We have the Zoom audience as well. Bob is giving me a motion. We have 172 people on Zoom as well. So welcome everybody on Zoom. You guys should have made it because we had a fantastic restaurant of the month. So hold on, it's not that easy. Sam, where's Sam? Come on up here, bring your daughter. So you guys, we have been watching and waiting for Samos on Ventura Boulevard in Woodman for a long time. This is Sam, this is Samos, and this is his daughter. And they're going to tell you, who liked the food here tonight? It was great. So,
Jules, don't get in front of the camera.
So anyway, tell us a little bit about why it took so long, a little about the food, what we expect. You open for 24 hours a day. Tell us about it.
Hi guys, my name is Susanna. I'm from Samos Cafe and Grill over on Ventura and Woodman. We are officially open. We've been open for a few weeks now. We specialize in Mediterranean food and we love to serve our community. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. We thank you guys for this opportunity. We really appreciate you guys so much. We really hope that you guys enjoyed our food. Sorry. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. We are open Tuesday through Sunday. We're closed Mondays, and we're open from 8:30 to 9 p.m. Thank you. 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, and also just for those of you who don't know, has anyone remodeled their kitchen in the last 20 years? Okay, so Archstone, is that Archstone? Just on the next block, on the corner, just on the same block, on the same side of the street, one block west of Samos Restaurant is Archstone. That's Sam's. Great people. My wife has gone there a few times and ordered stone for different projects. Really easy to work with, great prices. So he's part of our community, so let's support him. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have if our board members can just kind of come up here quickly so we can say hello. And then also if our senior leads can also come up here. Say hello.
Hi, I'm Bob Anderson, Vice President, and I'm the Transportation Chair fooling around with Metro.
I'm Jay Weitzler, and by the way, I have eaten at Samos, and they are just as good, if not better, in the places they are here. So go ahead and enjoy the food. They're really terrific.
I'm Joel Spear. I'm now emeritus status as a board member for the past, I don't know, 25 years, more than that.
30 years.
30. Anyway,
29.
thank you very much.
Jules.
Thank you. I'm Larry Slade. I am board member and chair of the Homelessness Committee.
Hi, everyone. Tom Glick, Land Use and Planning.
Also, Tom is in charge. He's our fashionista tonight. Look at that outfit. Isn't that beautiful? Maria Calvin is not here tonight. It's her daughter's birthday, so they're out celebrating. Jose, get over here.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Solana, and I'm the senior officer for the southern portion of Sherman Oaks. I cover everything South Ventura, between Coldwater Canyon and SOHA. I'm just giving you a little update from last year to date. Last year we had 20 burglaries. This year we have, correction. Last year we had 33 burglaries year to date. This year, for the southern portion of Sherman Oaks, we're down to 20. So we're doing real good on break-ins. One of the major things that we're talking right now is our break-ins on vehicles, free from motor vehicles are number one, and our grand theft autos are also very hard increased throughout the, not only in the valley, but throughout the city of Los Angeles. But for Sherman Oaks, we're still real good. That's an over to Officer Romo.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mariana Romo, and I am your senior lead officer for the northern part of Sherman Oaks, from Sepulveda to Magnolia, Chandler, all the way down to Coldwater, Fulton, and North Ventura Boulevard. Unfortunately, for my area, I am higher on the burglaries, residential particularly, and it's been on the west side of my division, which is Van Nuys West. I just recently had a couple of neighborhood watch meetings in this side of the neighborhood. I just want to give a shout out to my Ernie's Walk neighborhood. We had a couple neighborhood watch meetings, and we had a great turnout. As you guys know, we cannot be in every corner, but the best way of policing is community policing. And I cannot emphasize on how important it is to know your neighbors, get to know them, get to know their phone number, emails, get to know the type of vehicles that they're driving. Because a lot of the times these burglars do go out there, they scope the neighborhood to see when the residence is leaving, and that's an opportunity for them to go into your residence and commit a crime. So the best thing to do, get to know your neighbor. Number one thing, get to know who your block captain is for that area. And let's have a neighborhood watch meeting, and I'll come out there and give you the current crime stats for the area and crime prevention tips. My email address is 40229@lapd.online. 40229@lapd.online. And I'd love to come to your neighborhood and give you specific crime stats specifically for your neighborhood.
I think Mariana's running for office. She's talking on and on and on. Who here supports Los Angeles Police Department? Thank you very much, you guys. We love what you do, and we totally support what you do. Thank you. Thank you. And that includes you, Alex, too. So we have a couple folks from elected offices. Come on over. We also have a couple committee reports.
Hi, good evening. I'm Diane Rana with Assemblymember Laura Friedman's office. I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to let you know that the legislature is back in session, so she's in Sacramento Monday through Thursday. This Tuesday evening, if you know anyone who needs help with unemployment insurance, she is holding a EDD informational webinar. We will have a rep from EDD online to help answer any questions. You can always call our office at 818-558-3043. And on Earth Day, which is April 19th, if you're interested in picking up trash with Caltrans and the Assembly Member's office, let us know and we'll let you know where to show up. I'll remind you as we get closer. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan from our council member's office.
Hi everyone, Ryan Ahari, Sherman Oaks, Van Nuys, Field Deputy for Councilmember Nithya Raman. Good to see you all tonight. Wanted to let you all know our office has really been busy with all of the rainy season and all of the rainy weather. Of all landslide and mudslide requests throughout the city, 35% of them have been filed in our council district. That just shows how much hillside that we have, along with all of the mud that's slipping. If anyone needs assistance with rainy season 311s, please let me know. Down power lines, trees that fell, potholes, whatever it may be. I also wanted to let you all know some just to be anticipated for the upcoming city budget for 2024 to 2025. The city is unfortunately looking at about I want to be clear, $400 million deficit. So because of this, the city is going to have to make a decision in terms of what they will be funding and what they won't be. The Chief Administrative Officer has recommended looking at non-critical jobs. That is, critical jobs being firefighters, LAPD, anything related to public safety. So just giving everybody a heads up about that. And then finally, if you need any speed humps in your neighborhood, LADOT is reopening its applications. It's going to reopen on Thursday, March 21st, 10 a.m. You can log onto the DOT website and apply. There are 3 criteria. It has to be a residential street. There has to be only 1 lane of travel going in both directions. And there can only be 30 miles per hour or less per street. So that's my update, and I'll be around if anyone needs anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Any other electeds? Okay, so we have the next gentleman here who I've known his father for, his father did probably me one of my biggest favors. Does anyone here remember the Charter Reform Commission? Remember, anyone else? No? Okay. Anyway, his father ran against me when I was running for the Charter Reform Commission. It was a no-pay 2-year job, and his father won. Thank God. So Erwin Shermaninsky is his father, constitutional law professor, dean of law up at Berkeley. Great guy. And this is his son, Jeff. He's running for DA.
Great. Thank you all so much and good evening. It's great to be here tonight. I'm Jeff Chemerinsky and I'm running for District Attorney of Los Angeles. It's an incredibly important election. So many people in Los Angeles right now don't feel safe and have lost confidence and trust in our current district attorney and his ability to keep us all safe. A little bit about me. I grew up in the Los Angeles area. I grew up in the Fairfax area of Los Angeles. After leaving for college and law school, I convinced my wife, Kim, who I met at law school, to marry me and also to move back to Los Angeles together. And now LA is home for us. We're raising our 3 young kids. We have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. We're raising them here in Los Angeles, and I want them to love LA as much as I do. I've spent the last 9.5 years as a federal prosecutor, as an assistant United States attorney here in Los Angeles, serving in the violent and organized crime section of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And what that means is I worked with the federal government and local law enforcement officials to really send the worst of the worst to jail. And to give you a few examples of some of the cases I worked on, which you may have read about in the newspapers, just last year, I convicted the head of MS-13, the notorious and violent street gang, convicted the overall head of that gang, the shot caller of all of MS-13 here in Los Angeles, convicted him at trial of RICO and murder. The year before that, I convicted the head of the East Coast Crips. In that case, it was someone who had terrorized the streets of South LA for more than 30 years, had accumulated more than a dozen felony convictions. Also convicted him of RICO and murder, including for a cold case murder that I was really proud of having a hand in solving. For 7 years, I led the federal robbery program, meaning I worked with local and federal law enforcement officials to really go after smash and grab robberies, armed robbery crews, organized robbery crews, and really saw the impact those cases have on the community and on the victims, including on business owners, and really specialized in those cases. It will be a huge priority for me as district attorney. My number one priority as district attorney is public safety. The number one role of the district attorney's office to keep the public safe and to work with law enforcement every single day, to hold people accountable in a way that's firm but fair, and that will be my number one priority. I'm happy to take any questions anyone has. I'm so grateful for the chance to introduce myself. Again, Jeff Chemerinsky, and I'm running for District Attorney of Los Angeles. No questions?
Thank you and good luck, and thank you for running. Okay, Jay, you have a couple committee reports, and then we're gonna get on to Jim. You want to come on up? Nah, don't come up yet. Jim?
The first thing I'd like to tell you, actually, I'm not Maria Calvan. Maria couldn't, you may not have noticed that. Maria couldn't be here tonight because unfortunately her daughter chose today to have her birthday. So she and Jeff are celebrating with her daughter. Maria would have told you to be informed about Measure HLA. That's the one you've seen and heard some advertising on. It's been in the papers. It mandates that if the city paves or repaves more than 1/8 of a mile of a major city street, they must build a bike lane and do other repairs, maybe even take out a lane of traffic for a bus lane. It's a wonderful idea in terms of creating safe bus lanes. I am a bicyclist. I appreciate safe bike lanes. It's a wonderful idea to have bus lanes. But the question you're going to have to ask yourselves, and I encourage you, and all of us encourage you to be informed on this issue. It's going to cost over $3 billion in the next 10 years. And you heard Ryan Ahari tell you how we're desperate for money in this city. Strangely, I can't imagine why. We all pay our taxes, a lot of them. But we can't just spend money without looking at what we're going to get in return. I think you have to be informed about this and ask yourself whether or not you want to have 1/8 of a mile of a bicycle lane or 1/8 of a mile of a bus lane unless it connects in a wider system. If you do and you think that's the long-range plan and there's some way that it's going to work, then vote for it. But I do want you, and Maria would have asked you to just become very informed on this because it's an expensive proposition with great goals, but may or may not be the best way to attack the problem that we have. Secondly, I'd like to mention a couple of things that happened regarding the Van Nuys Airport. As you may have heard, Nancy told you a number of times she was talking about a company called Bonsef Helinet, which is a company that operates out of Van Nuys, and they have a helicopter operation. They were looking to expand it into jets and to make a larger profile at the airport. After a couple of years of battle, the community successfully convinced a subcommittee of the city council to vote for a rejection of the proposal that Bonsef Helinet made to expand their activities and to encourage jet airplanes to work out of their particular facility, as if we didn't have enough jet airplanes coming out of Van Nuys. So the Travel, Trade, and Tourism Committee of the City Council voted against the renewal of their proposal or the acceptance of their proposal, and we hope that the entire City Council will also reject that proposal. We don't need any more jet airplanes coming out of Van Nuys, and we, if anything, would like to reduce the helicopter noise as well. Secondly, regarding the Van Nuys Airport, the City Council, there was a proposal made by another City Council person that was seconded by our council person, Nithya Raman, to create a new specific plan to govern the Van Nuys Airport. And I have to read you a little bit about the motion, just a sentence or two that was contained in the motion, because this will tell you how out of control the airport has become, or why it has gotten so out of control, I should say. You almost won't believe this. And this is in the motion. This is the preamble to the motion. The Van Nuys Airport is one of the busiest general aviation airports in the nation. Despite densely populated residential areas existing prior to Van Nuys' redevelopment over the past 20 years, no mitigation policy measures were created by Los Angeles World Airports to mandate such mitigation considerations. Over the years, the city has not been provided with a study dictating Van Nuys' general aviation needs, or a study comparing aviation interests with those of the community and environmental interests to demonstrate a responsible land use balance at Van Nuys. No mitigation measures were considered or presented in 20 years of operation. So maybe you know now why our community has become so upset at what's happening at Van Nuys. So the City Council passed a motion seconded by Ms. Raman, by Councilwoman Raman, to order that a new specific plan be conducted and that mitigation measures be reviewed and considered in establishing a brand new specific plan. So the community violence and the community being upset may have some effect here. So we do have to give the council thanks. That was a 13-0 vote by our Los Angeles City Council.
Thank you, Jay, for the report, and he will keep you posted on the airport. All right, so Jim, have a seat, relax. So I'm so happy to see Jim McDonnell here. I've known him for a long time. He rose up to the ranks in Los Angeles Police Department and then became our sheriff. He did a fantastic, excuse me, I'm getting all choked up. No, he did a fantastic job. And it's so interesting because unsolicited, I had a handful of you guys, quite a few of you actually come up and say, why isn't he our sheriff today? Right? Anyone else feel that way? Does anyone know why? It's the stupidest thing in my book. I want the top cop not to be a Republican or a Democrat. I want him to be a good cop, to be doing what he's supposed to be doing out there. He is a Republican. Okay. The Democrats ran in our county and in our city, ran a candidate against him because he was not a Democrat. I'm sorry, he's an independent. He's a Republican to me, but he's an independent. Sorry. That's wrong. And that's, so I didn't answer your questions earlier as far as why. But that's why there was a ton of money that was brought on because it became a partisan election, which is so ridiculous. So anyway, I'm happy to have him here, considering, or especially during what we're going through right now. Our chief of police just stepped down. We are going to be getting a new chief of police. We have a lot of stuff going on in the city of Los Angeles with, as you guys all know, homelessness, crime is up, enforcement is down, sentencing is down. So Jim, you guys all read the information. You know, again, he was most recently, well, I'm gonna let you tell a little bit about your background and what you've been doing recently, and then you and I are gonna do a little Q&A.
Good. Well, thank you, and it's good to see so many old friends tonight. Thank you for having me back. I saw this just now, and I think Matt had sent me a copy digitally, but I didn't pay attention to it like I probably should have. And it says here, tired of crime and homelessness, hear the truth from Jim McDonnell, he's been in the trenches, has nothing to lose. I thought that was a funny editorial there. But yeah, I grew up in Boston, as you can hear. Came out here in 1981, joined the LAPD, spent 29 years in the organization, and then competed a couple of times for chief. Ended up moving on to Long Beach PD, chief there for 5 years, and then ran for sheriff. I never entertained the thought of running for sheriff. That wasn't something that was on my game plan at all. But I sat for a year on the Citizens Commission on Jail Violence and saw firsthand what I never expected I would see what was going on in the Sheriff's Department. I grew up next door and had no idea of the things that were happening there. And so after seeing that, we issued a report, 63 recommendations for changes, and people approached me and said, hey, would you run for sheriff? And I said, no, we've done this report, let the department take it, do what they can with it, and see what happens. So in the next year, they had the reports, they were working on it, but about 20 different folks in the department were federally indicted, including the sheriff and the undersheriff, who were later convicted and sentenced. And so I looked at it and I thought to myself, you know what, from that insight that I got from a year in looking at the sheriff's department, I felt that I probably knew as much as an outsider would about that department. And so I reconsidered, I threw my hat in the ring, and then I got into the political arena. And that was not something I ever wanted to be in or want to be again. But you got to get out there, and we ended up raising $2 million to be competitive. The county is giant. I was working my day job at Long Beach PD, and every night I was out there going to fundraisers or whatever it was I could to get the word out there. To these folks who come before you that are running for countywide office, I respect all of them because it is such an onerous job to go from Long Beach to Pomona to Lancaster to the Marina, and a lot of driving in between. But I ended up getting elected, doing the job of sheriff for 4 years, and felt like we moved that organization forward more in 4 years than people anticipated we could in much longer time. Then I got beat in the election by my successor, Villanueva, and the things that we put together were, many of those were undone, and then he didn't get reelected. Robert Luna's in there now and trying to do some of the reforms and put things in place that had been there previously. So my hat's off to him. He's got a tough job ahead of him, but one that he's got a fire in the belly to do.
All right, thank you. So I put on that you have nothing to lose in the sense that you're not running for office right now. So in the times, no, I know, but in the times that we have right now, in the calendar wise, this is an election year. And people are saying things because they want to get elected, they're saying things because they want somebody to get elected. So that's what I meant by that, that you've always been a straight shooter. And you've always been, and you've always been straight with this audience, with our audience here. So, again, this audience, the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Associations, our concerns, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that most of these folks in this room don't feel safe. They don't feel as safe as they did 5 years ago, and they definitely don't feel as safe as they did 10 years ago. So if you had a magic wand, what could you do? What would you do to make us feel safer? The homeless, the crime, the fewer police officers that are on the street.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think all of those things are major factors that you have to be vocal about. The senior lead officer was here before and talked about getting out there and being an ambassador for what you believe in, for what you need, for what you deserve as taxpayers. You got to be loud, because you look at the agenda today is being driven by a relative few, but they're very vocal and very active on social media. And the politicians respond to what they hear over and over again. And many people who are good people who just want to be safe, want their kids to be safe, want to know that when they go home, the house wasn't broken into. They go about their business, but they do it too quietly to be able to get noticed. So I would say mobilize. I know I'm preaching to the choir here at SOHA, because you're all very active in the community, but reach out to 2 or 3 or 10 other people to get them interested and to get them active. When you look at some of the elections we have and you get about a 14% turnout, and you just think about that, there's so much riding for all of us on the people we elect. And if we don't elect the right people who see things the way that we believe they should, then it's on us if we didn't get out there to vote. And too often, I think that's a big factor in what happens. People get frustrated. They figure, hey, I don't have any impact, and they don't go to the polls. But the polls is where it really all happens. So again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I say that just to reinforce it, that maybe you make a couple of more phone calls and get other people interested in what we're doing. The issues you mentioned, very, very difficult issues, the homeless issue. How do we get to where we are, where we have around 75,000 homeless people in the county of Los Angeles? That's an incredible number of people who are living in terrible conditions. And to leave people on the street who are unable to care for themselves due to mental illness or addiction problems is not humane for a society to look at it that way. We need to do something for the people who can't do something for themselves, provide opportunities for those who are out there to help them get off the street, to get addiction help, get whatever it is they need, mental health intervention, because you have police officers responding over and over again to the people who are under these circumstances. And their ability, the tools that they have been limited in what they can do to be able to resolve a situation when you call. You end up frustrated, they end up frustrated. And so again, it goes back to, we have a lot of so-called reforms on the books today that have taken place in the last, probably 14 years, I think since 2011. And when you look at those, they were well-intended. And the hope was that we were going to get a certain outcome. You could have asked any police officer or anybody who was plugged in the community. When they looked at that, they could tell you there's going to be unintended adverse impacts from those. And sure enough, time has told that. I think we'll see some reversals on some of those, or at least modifications in the years to come. But they'll only come if you drive them. And so I would ask again, get involved and let people know what you desire. Some of the other problems we see now, fentanyl. Everybody familiar with fentanyl? In this group, most people it seems are. In most groups I talk to, they are not. And when I look at fentanyl as a problem for our society, about 120,000 people will die from overdoses this year. Most of those will be fentanyl. And when you think about that, and it's just that
Los Angeles or nation?
No, nationwide, yeah. And when you think about that, that's 40 9/11s. And yet we don't give it enough emphasis for what's happening to our country. The precursor chemicals are coming from China. They're being sent to Mexico to the cartels who make the drug. They ship it across the border in their network to the gangs who oversee the distribution and then kick up money to the Mexican mafia, prison and jail gang. So we got a multi-level, multinational organization that is causing the deaths of so many people in our country. And many of these people are people who accidentally die. They take something that they think is something else, and they got it on the internet, they got a deal, they didn't have insurance or whatever. And you know, the next thing, one pill kills, as they say, and that person then is gone. And this is happening to us, and we're not vocal enough about demanding that it be stopped. And I think that's something I put out there for all of you and leaders in our community to get the word out there for those who aren't as plugged in as you are about what we're facing on that front. Some of the other issues you talked about, how few police officers we have. LAPD is down about 1,100 officers, latest I heard. And LAPD is already a very tightly staffed organization. When you look at Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, they have about 4 to 4.5 cops per thousand population. LAPD fully deployed has 2.5. So when you look at that and you think how much we're getting from the officers who are out there working every day, they're being pushed to the max. There was talk earlier about community policing. We absolutely need to have a community policing philosophy, bringing the community in to help do the job that police are paid to do full time, but it's really all of our jobs to look out for everybody else. But when we talk about community policing, that requires more officers than you would normally have deployed. Because the ability to be able to stay behind on a radio call and to help the person get through the trauma that they've just been through, to make suggestions as to how to harden the target and make their home safer so they're not broken into again. Those are the type of things that police officers want to do, but don't have the time to do. When they go back out to that black and white, there's 4 calls waiting for service. And everybody who's waiting for service expects that to happen quickly. And they go call to call to call, and if they get an arrest or they get retoned for a higher priority call, those calls get put on the back burner. Nobody wants that to happen to them, but that's the nature of what they're doing. They're constantly triaging the calls that are coming in and trying to handle the ones first that are the greatest potential for violence or violent crime in progress. And so we need to be able to restore the pride in policing, what it means to be a police officer, not only in LA, but in America, because without that, people don't join this job for the money that you get from it. They join it because they want to be part of something bigger, a noble calling, to be able to help others. And where you see people who join this job and get on it and then end up in a position where they're on national news for doing something that in some cases that they were trained to do. And yet politically, they got jammed up on it. And they're in a position they never thought they'd find themselves. And everybody else is watching that. And they see that and they go, do I want my son or daughter? Do I want myself to be in that kind of a situation? And without the support of the public, without people appreciating the job that they're doing every day, when you do the cost benefit analysis, there's a lot of people saying that, I'm going to do something else. And that's sad because really a good police officer can make such a great impact on a community. And so that is a big challenge, but we need to restore the pride. We need to be able to, to provide what's necessary to be able to be an attractive position for people who are coming out of college, coming out of the military, looking to see what do I want to do with my life, and to be able to give them that calling that they will, if they do it right, they'll look back on it many years down the road, and say there's nothing I would have rather had done than being a police officer. And so I look at where we are today. I think that the problem is difficult, but not insurmountable, but we have to look at things differently than we have been. And that's going to take somebody coming forward at every level in the nation from a leadership standpoint to be able to help change the narrative that we've seen for the past several years and to be able to look at things differently in order to get different results. Is there something else that I should have hit on?
There's lots.
Keep going.
Not done with you.
Keep going.
All right. So, one of the things you said is, early on, as far as running for an office, that did not leave a good taste in your mouth. And one of the reasons I believe, and some of the folks that I've spoken to, police officers at LAPD and Sheriff's Department, they don't like their job anymore because they're dealing with an unfixable problem in their mind, which is homeless. That they're dealing with people that are mentally ill. They're dealing with people that are on drugs, and they can't do anything. They get called by their constituents or the residents, and they're left doing nothing. So and then there's that other side that's constantly has the camera out looking for them to make mistakes so that they can, be on YouTube.
Right.
And so the police officer of today, it's a very, especially in Los Angeles, or especially in California, I should say, it's a very thankless job. So, excuse me. So recruiting more police into LAPD, I think it goes back to, a lot of this goes back to, we have to fix the homeless problem. The county jails can't be the #1 institution for mentally ill people. They can't be. So the far left says build more homes, that'll fix the problem. The far right says lock them up, that'll fix the problem. I have my solution. What's your solution?
Yeah, let's hear your solution. Neither side is right. Neither side is the solution. You have to look at a lot of different things. What causes homelessness? A lot of it is untreated mental illness. A lot of it is addiction problems. A lot of it is people down on their luck that need the help to be able to get back and get right again. The thing that tears your heart out is when you see families out there and mothers with their kids. There's something, that's where we should be starting, to be able to try and get people off the streets and into housing and into a safe environment who otherwise are extremely vulnerable out there. But for the people who are out there, when you look at the number of people, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, the number of people on the street and how it's going up exponentially over a period of 10 years, you look at it, and you think, why is that? Why do we have so many more people on the streets with untreated mental illness? And just from my own experience, and I have no data to support this, but I think the use and abuse of methamphetamine has hit that problem in a way where we couldn't have anticipated that was coming. And we have a lot of people who, because of their abuse of that drug, have put themselves in a position where they can't get along in a home. They're out on the streets, and then we see the violence and the problems out there, and they're chasing their high day in and day out, and stealing to support it or whatever they have to do in that regard, as they do with other drugs as well. And we saw what happened, and I won't go into great detail because you all are very familiar with AB 109, Prop 47, Prop 57. Again, all well-intentioned, I think, but when you look at the unintended consequences, when you have somebody who's addicted to a drug, and previously they might have been arrested for possession of that drug, they no longer are. So there's no leverage for the courts to be able to force them into treatment. And before, sometimes treatment would help, every now and then it will help, but every now and then matters, because that's one less person out there dealing with these issues on the street. So we took away some tools, quite a few tools, from the police officers on the street, from the prosecutors, and their ability to be able to move people through the system in the hopes of not just punishing in the minds of some, but to be able to get them the resources and the help that need to be ordered for them. Because of their addiction issues, they can't get into those programs themselves. They just can't get there. And so we need that level of support for them, if you will, that the law would mandate that they go to these treatment programs. That's not happening today the way it did just 10 years ago or more.
You want to hear my solution?
Yeah.
You guys want to hear my solution?
No.
Okay, I'll move on. So many of us say homelessness with one word, and the folks that are homeless that want to be helped, I totally agree. You said that first. Those should be our #1 priority. Unfortunately, they're the last in the priority because in the county system, they have the fewest amount of points because they haven't been on the street long enough. So the woman who's abused by her husband, or is on the street because, or the family that's on the street because they lost their job and they did not have a safety net. Those are the folks that there should be housing for, and they should be transitional that assist those folks to get back on their feet. That should be our #1 priority. The other folks, the mental ill, the drug abusers, the alcohol abusers, And then the other folks that just don't want to go, they don't want to be housed. They want to be on the street and they want to do their own thing. They shouldn't be allowed and they should be put away until they either get off the drugs, get mental, the drugs that they need to be, kill their, or take care of their mental illness. They should be taken care of. And a handful of those people, like you said, will transition back if they are given the right help. But they shouldn't be in a county lockup. It should be a county supervisor, a state supervised facility to protect us, the rest of the folks, and to hopefully enable them to get back on their feet. But again, our county looks at the guy that's been on the street the longest, whether he's he's got mental illness, drug issues, alcohol issues. They give him the first priority for a room when open door, whatever it's called, becomes available. And then the family that just got abused, they go and they're sitting there in the room next door to some crazy guy that's banging on the wall all night long. So the family's going to move out. And they're going to go back on the street. There should be different facilities for different types of illness. And what do you think?
No, I agree. And a lot of people say, well, we don't have the money to do that. I would argue that we do. When you look at Prop H, Prop HHH in the county and the city, and you look at the money that's coming in, how is that being spent? Where is the accountability for that? What's being done with that? How much of that is for housing? How much for treatment? How much for assessment of people who are out there? And again, those are hard to get answers. And why is that? So I think we need to start looking from a standpoint of, if we are investing money into solutions for these issues, where is that money going? How is it being spent? And who's overseeing it so that we know that people who provide services aren't competing against each other, but rather collaborating to be able to make things better in the long run.
Do you have a favorite for DA?
Yeah, no, I'm not, I'm not a political guy and I'm not here to tell one or the other, but the job of district attorney is so important. And that district attorney and the organization have to be partners with members of the law enforcement community and the police agencies that are out there. And it has always been that way. And now we've seen something very different in the last 3 years. A situation that if you were to ask any officer on the street what their thoughts are, they'd be pretty candid with you. And that's from a group that are normally pretty guarded about anything political.
What about the, what's it called, special, Gascon took that off as far as special circumstances, that was called now?
Yeah, special circumstances is part of it, but
And then gang enhancements.
Yeah.
So that was taken off by our current DA with a rare exception. So if it's politically correct, there was somebody who killed 3 people, and it was very, very popular. Press was all over it, and in Beverly Hills recently, and Gascon went ahead and put special enhancements on that person. Then there was another one down in some area that 6 people were killed, and there was no special enhancements on that person because nobody covered it. It wasn't a politically hot button. So what do you think about enhancements being taken away or enhancements being enforced?
I don't think it's good public policy to make blanket statements about doing anything in particular with regard to violent charges. Enhancements have always been there for a reason. Generally, what you'd see are enhancements for the use of a gun by somebody who's been previously convicted, enhancements for gang membership, doing an act in furtherance of the gang. All those kind of things are enhancements to be used as a disincentive for those who are out there looking to commit a crime. And we're fairly effective in that because the people on the streets are pretty well schooled up in what happens when they get caught and what they can predict will happen. And so that does shape behavior or help shape it in some cases, at least. The special circumstances piece is for capital cases. And the current DA does not, as far as I'm aware, file death penalty cases. And that's where the special circs would come in, and that would be killing a peace officer, killing during the commission of a kidnapping, and other crimes that we would all say are particularly terrible crimes.
So you brought up an interesting point. So back, I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was put in front of California voters to vote on the death penalty, and the California voters voted for the death penalty. Then 4 years later, they put it back on the ballot to make sure that Californians wanted the death penalty under certain circumstances, obviously. And the voters of California said, yes, thumbs up, if somebody's going to do a terrible crime, the death penalty. Am I right? So that still stands in California. So, but if somebody does a heinous crime here in Los Angeles County, the district attorney has the right to go ahead and make that decision whether he's going to charge him with the death penalty or not. Why would that be?
Yeah, in any county, it's 58 counties in the state. In any county, the district attorney has the filing discretion to do what they believe is appropriate as it relates to a capital case or any other case. And the opinions, if you will, of the various district attorneys differ. And as you mentioned, in the case of Los Angeles County, we're dealing with, the circumstances of the day.
Okay, so that's interesting. That's okay. So it's a discretionary based on.
Yeah.
So when you guys are going to the ballots, make sure you listen to based on who who the different DAs are, what their opinions are on enhancements and again, when I grew up, I grew up. I wasn't a good kid. I wasn't a good student, and but I always remember my parents saying, "You do the crime, you do the time," and there were consequences. And so I would push the line, but I wouldn't go over that line because there were repercussions. Now it doesn't exist.
No, you think about any society, the rule of law is what makes us different from most other countries. And we've always had tremendous respect for that. And the rule of law provided guardrails for behavior in society. And we've seen in recent years kind of an erosion of that where it's not clear what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And you see circumstances where people run into stores and run out with everything they can get. And then if they get caught, then not much is done. And the message that sends is one that it's okay. You can do whatever you feel like doing and you're going to get away with it. And we've seen now recently task forces being put together to address these issues. But for a couple of years here now, we've all witnessed what happens. And it's not just here, it's in cities around the country where there's almost been tacit approval based on the lack of filing criminal charges against people who are committing these types of crimes. We saw it in 2020, 2021, and other circumstances with unrest in areas around the city, and then the lack of follow-up as far as criminal filings on some of that. And so the message that sends to the community is that the police aren't going to do anything. They're not engaged. And there's nobody more frustrated than the police that want to be engaged, that want to do the right thing, want to protect the community. So there is a tremendous amount of frustration that goes back to the recruitment and retention issues that we talked about earlier. That is the first thing on the minds of sheriffs and police chiefs, not only here, but around the country, is how do I fully staff my department with the best and the brightest that I can get? And not to reduce standards to bring people in, but to maintain a high standard and to be able to reach out and set the next generation of police officers up for a successful career and keep the community safe in the process.
All right. Anyone have any questions? Yeah, Jay.
Sheriff, I'm just curious about what you think the effect of the great spotlight of the media has on the attitude of the police. I can't think of anything better than the media looking and making sure that we don't go back to what it was like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah.
I was there and you were there.
Yeah.
A little after me, but you were close to there. The spotlight is a good spotlight, but on the other hand, the police have got to be very much concerned with whether or not they're going to be prosecuted for doing something, whether they're going to be sued for doing something, and you get it.
Yeah.
How bad does that affect their morale?
Yeah, no, it has a tremendous impact, and it really comes down to the perception they have of public support. Is what they're doing important to the people they're putting it all on the line for? And if it is, then you go out there and you do everything you can to protect people. And if you feel that the perception is not that way, and that you don't have the support you need, and when you do something, you're going to be held up to dry and not supported for doing the job the way that you were trained to do it, that has a chilling effect on anybody's ability or willingness to put themselves in harm's way. So it has a tremendous impact, and that's one we need to address, and very openly. Police officers need to be held to a very high standard. When you look at the job that they're given by society, they have the responsibility to potentially take somebody's freedom away, or worst case scenario, somebody's life away. And there's few other professions where you have that kind of responsibility. But with that, then you need the support of the community. If you're out there doing the right thing for the right reasons, and you make a mistake, or you end up in a situation that ends up on the front page of the paper or on a viral video, that it gets a fair review, and that you're not tried in the media as soon as it happens, but rather there's an investigation done. And I'll tell you, in Southern California, when there's they call it in LA, a categorical use of force, a serious use of force by police officers, the level of investigation is beyond what anybody would believe. Potentially, you could have an officer involved shooting anywhere in the city tonight, and there will literally be 60 people out there, investigators, following up on that from your own department, every different division, force investigation division, robbery, homicide, training, risk management, and on and on and on. And then you have the DA's team that rolls out there. If there's a death, you have the coroner's investigators who come out there. Today, you probably have somebody from the State Attorney General's office there. And then you have all the support doing the investigation, scientific investigation and others. And so a tremendous amount of resources go into the investigation to make sure that whatever happens, it's documented thoroughly, and that anybody who looks at this down the road is going to be able to know exactly what happened. And then there's a procedure for reviewing the use of force, and that goes on for up to a year after the investigation is completed. And police officers will tell you that the level of scrutiny is beyond what you would find, I would believe, in any other profession. So they are held to a very high standard. If a lot of people, I think, based on TV and movies, they think if the police do something wrong, they get away with it. And if you were to ask any police officer how strong and active is Internal Affairs or Internal Criminal Investigation Bureau in some departments, they would tell you that they are all over everything, and that that is a concern, that if they do something wrong, that it is going to be thoroughly investigated, and rightfully so.
All right. Also, if you do have questions and you don't want to shout it out, which I'd actually appreciate, you have asked the questions, and Jay will pick them up. Just raise your hand. Tom, can you stand up in the back? So Tom has a question. Care Court, will it actually make an impact to get the problem people help?
I hope so. I was kind of surprised, to be honest, that was put forward in the times that we're in. But it is, I think, the fact that people in Sacramento are hearing the frustration on the part of members of communities throughout the state, that we have people, as we discussed here just a few minutes ago, we have people on the street who are suffering, people who need help, who can't ask for help for themselves. And somebody else the state needs to make, or a judge needs to make that determination that this person is unable to care for themselves, and they need to be housed, they need to be treated, and they need to be brought into a location where they're going to get that treatment, even if in some cases, worst cases, that they don't want to get that treatment. The sad part about untreated mental illness is that many of the people who have it are shelter resistant. They don't want to come inside for a number of different reasons due to the illness, and they resist treatment. And so you have to deal with a lot of those issues that are very difficult from a humanistic standpoint to deal with. But it's certainly, in my mind, not humane to leave people in that condition, to leave them on the street, living under a bridge, or eating out of garbage cans and doing the things that we all see each and every day, and sleeping anywhere. In our society, as advanced as we are, to see this kind of thing being tolerated, we need to be better than that.
Okay. Nancy, you had a question?
I'm going to give her the mic.
Yeah.
Jim, first of all.
Hold on. Bob's bringing the mic over.
Okay, we'll try. Hello, does that work? Okay. First, thank you again for being here. It's a pleasure to see you again, and I'm happy you joined us. One thing that happened this past week that was distressing, and I'm sure anybody who saw the news feels as I do when you saw those three beautiful young men in Minneapolis gunned down. You know, they went on a call, and, you know, it's the type of call that is known to be dangerous, but there were two, plus the paramedic who was providing aid to one also got killed. And I looked at their pictures, and not only did my heart break, but I thought, you know, our mayor, Karen Bass, is trying to do so much to increase budgets, to provide incentives for more hiring. And then I look at something like this, and I can't help but think, this is why they're not rushing to the job, because it's so dangerous. And anyway, I don't know what kind of feedback you have, but I just wanted to say that I think that's a factor. Yeah.
No, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I think all of our hearts, when we saw that, what happened in I think it was Burnsville, just outside of Minneapolis the other day, was absolutely tragic. They each left young families behind them as well. Does that have a chilling effect on recruitment or retention? You know, we're all humans. It certainly is a factor that people weigh, but I would say it would not be a determinant, because we've always seen violence against police officers in the performance of their duties. And we've all been to, I can't tell you how many police officer line of death funerals. And that's part of, unfortunately, a bad part of the job. But it's one that we accept going in knowing that that's a potential outcome. But that's not something I see as a deterrent for those who are committed to being police officers. They come on knowing the dangers of the job, but what they really need is the support of the community. And they'll do pretty much anything to protect the community if they know they have that support. That's more of a deterrent to being able to recruit new people, that lack of support, the demonization that we've seen of police over the last several years, that has the biggest chilling effect on recruitment and retention. The dangers of the job, certainly people weigh those, but those who are committed to the mission, they come on knowing, much like our people in the military, they go in there knowing that there's that possibility for each and every one of us. You hope it never happens, but knowing that it could. But yeah, I think it's more the lack of support than it is the fear of any kind of personal danger.
Thank you.
Yes, Bob. So I'm just, yes.
Is there a reason Los Angeles can't need more people? If we're 4-1 and the other cities are like 2-1, how are they getting there?
Money.
Money? Okay, that's what
I wouldn't counter that. I would say that the contract that the Los Angeles Police Protective League, working with the mayor, were able to secure was one that makes LAPD very competitive from a pay and benefit standpoint. So it's not that LA is seeing anything much different than every other major city in America. They're all really hurting for personnel. It's something that we're seeing across the country, but again, it speaks to that the perception and the reality of the lack of support for the mission of policing today that's causing us to not have the number of people that were lining up to take the exam in years past. When I left the sheriff's office at the end of 2018, it took, for every 100 people who applied to be police officers or deputy sheriffs, 4 would make it to the academy, 3 would make it through the academy. There's no other profession I'm aware of with a 97% washout rate. And so we had a lot of people lining up, and we need a lot of people in order to get that 3% that'll end up on the street serving the community. And so if we don't turn things around and be able to get full academy classes, the situation is going to become even more difficult. The officers that are out there are going to be stretched even further than they currently are. And that's not a good outcome for the community.
Jim, thank you.
My pleasure.
Let's hear it for Jim
Thank you
McDonnell.
all very much.
Go home. No, we'll see you guys. We'll see you next month. We've got a great speaker next month and a great restaurant. Jane's been doing a great job of recruiting the restaurant. So bring your hungry tummies, and we'll see you next month. Thank you, everybody.